Welcome back to another in our series of questions Jesus asked. Our question today comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, verse 20. And the things you have prepared, whose will they be? To give our question its context today, we'll be reading verses 13 through 21 of Luke chapter 12. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness. For one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, 'What shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops.' And he said, 'I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry.' But God said to him, 'Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God.'" There's a rather curious reality that occurs that is both puzzling and sobering to observe, one which I have witnessed and heard of in my life over the years. It is that of the memory left behind of the one who retires from a place of work. It seems that no matter how long one works at a place of employment, time catches up, and they must make way for others that will follow. Invariably, what happens is their memory fades from those who follow, until one day the name is brought up and someone declares, "Who was that?" No one remembered the individual who had labored and given so many of their years to those people, that job, and that employer. Time marches on. Plaques, awards, trophies, accolades, honors, all forgotten. It is as if they had never been there. How many of us walk by a statue with a name on it and have no idea who that person was? Why, only a few short years before, a grand ceremony was celebrated in honor of that individual. And now pigeons perch on the head of the statue that now crumbles into dust and fades with time. I am reminded of a line from the poem "The Indispensable Man" by Saxon White Kessinger. Sometime when you're feeling important, sometime when your ego's in bloom, sometime when you take it for granted you're the best qualified in the room, sometime when you feel that your going would leave an unfillable hole, just follow these simple instructions and see how they humble your soul. Take a bucket and fill it with water. Put your hand in it up to the wrist. Pull it out, and the hole that's remaining is a measure of how much you'll be missed. You can splash all you wish when you enter. You may stir up the water galore, but stop and you'll find that in no time it looks quite the same as before. The moral of this quaint example is to do just the best that you can. Be proud of yourself, but remember, there's no indispensable man. Our passage today from Luke 12 is a sobering reminder and cautionary note for all who would pour their heart and soul and time and strength into that which will perish and soon be forgotten. Jesus questioned for contemplation in verse 20. But God said to him, "Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be?" They come in the context of what we commonly call the parable of the rich fool, which is prompted by an outburst from a voice in the crowd whose identity and name is lost to history, but his words will live until time shall be no more. "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." What was this inheritance so valued by this person assumed to be a man, that he would take up the valuable time of the one who came from eternity to ransom his life for every last human being born from the beginning of time until the trumpet shall sound announcing the end. Was it gold? Was it property? Was it a home with all the family possessions? Where are those today? No doubt, like this man, lost to the annals of history. While many of Jesus' questions prompt a thoughtful response or beg the hearer to consider deeper meanings, this question is a stinging rebuke to a selfish, self-absorbed miser in the parable put forth by none other than God himself. The lesson of the parable was stated before Jesus began in verse 15. He said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." Jesus leaves no doubt as to the consequences of a life lived for gain when he concludes in verse 21, "So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God." I would like to know what became of that man whose voice rang out over the crowd and begged the one whose mission was that of saving souls to arbitrate his inheritance. Was that parable enough to change his course of life? Oh, to know the rest of the story. As for his fate, we don't know. But I wonder if for you and I, that the telling of this parable and the question posed is enough to convince us to shift our focus from the temporary to the eternal. That same question that Solomon posed long before in Ecclesiastes 5:16. This also is a grievous evil. Just as he came, so shall he go. And what gain is there to him who toils for the wind? It's better to think on such things now than to wait until it is asked of us on that great day. Don't you think? And Lord willing, let's meet again tomorrow and consider another of the questions Jesus asked.